good Friday morning. We're going to try our best to have a feel-good football Friday. The Giants lose last night to the 49ers. This game was close for a little bit. Second half, they even had an opportunity to get it within a field goal, but all of a sudden, the 49ers showed up and ran past the Giants like they were standing still. Of course, we've got another Zach Wilson against the Patriots theater coming up on Sunday, and maybe some wind and some rain. And we're going to have a brutal sort of nor'easter weekend weather-wise. And then I show up this morning, and Boomer Esiason is wearing a Green Bay Packer jersey. So everything is working against me today, everything, but I'm not going to let it drag me down. No way on a feel-good football Friday. Hell, I was on national TV last night talking about Daniel Jones in the Thursday Night Football Open. I'm a superstar, Boomer. They cut you out and put me in there. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Chase. You can take it out on me if you'd like. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm wearing Bart Starr's legacy jersey from Mitchell and Ness. And by the way, I got these jerseys. I got this one, Kenny Stabler, Johnny Unitas, Len Dawson.
Why'd you pick this one?
Well, because the only one I could find. I don't know what happened to him.
That's fine.
So I had literally about 10 of these jerseys. So when we started the quarterback club in the early 90s, Mitchell and Ness did these jerseys. Mm-hmm. And these jerseys, there's no jersey ever built or made better than this jersey. Feel that jersey.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's an awesome jersey. So I found it, and I said, it's a football Friday. I know Giant fans are going to be a little bit down today because of what happened last night. I mean, look, it was a game. One team had the ball like 83 plays, and I think the Giants had the ball like 47 plays or something.
And they still hung in there, amazingly enough. Yes. I mean, that's the one thing about this game that's really interesting when you look back at it. Yes, okay, 30-12 doesn't feel close. But, I mean, they were right there and had opportunities. And there was a couple of times in the first half that I really think changed this game. And they were big third downs, and especially when they could have held the 49ers to field goals. 3rd and 13. You get that screen pass to Christian McCaffrey. They could have held him to a field goal there. Could have been 6-3. Instead, they end up scoring that touchdown to the kid who was filling in for Brandon Ayuk on that drive. 3rd and 12, another drive. They end up getting that ball. I think it was Deebo Samuel caught it right at the marker. Then you get the roughing the passer on Leonard Williams, gets them all the way down there, and then you get a touchdown there by McCaffrey. So there was 2 spots there where the Giant defense could have come up big, kept that game even closer in the first half, and they blew it big time on both of those 3rd and longs.
And I would argue that there were 3 penalties called against the Giants that extended plays.
Yeah.
And, the one on Leonard Williams, I kind of understand it because I know what they're trying to get rid of. When you look at it, back in the day, that was never roughing the passer. What happens is, and I think what the official sees, it looks as if, and I'm not saying that it is accurate, I'm just telling you in real time, this is what the official sees. He sees Leonard Williams tackling Brock Purdy and then throwing his entire body on top of Brock Purdy. That's why they call that play, and that play was huge in this game. And, as many penalties are, especially when they're on 3rd down, especially when your defense is trying to get off the field, Trent Williams should have got thrown out of the game for throwing a punch.
Yeah, I was shocked he did not. I don't know how an official standing right there watching it. I have no idea why he remained in the game. I also think they got screwed, the Giants, but it ended up working out for them because they didn't get a touchdown on that drive. The 49ers didn't. Was the Kayvon Thibodeau illegal contact? I mean, come on. How many times does that happen in a game? That's right at the 5-yard marker.
Yes.
He just pushes them off. I mean, that happens a million times on a Sunday football slate where that exact play happens. It does not get called, and then they threw the flag there in that situation down the red zone. Now, the Giants the defense stiffened up at that point. But, yeah, there were a few calls there that I felt that were unfair to the Giants, and I think that was that illegal contact. That was the one where Brian Dable was about to just jump out of his skin.
I thought he was going to have a stroke.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We all knew going into the game that the 49ers are one of the Super Bowl favorites, especially when they are healthy. They were missing Brandon Ayuk last night, but his replacement wasn't bad. But you saw in all their luster what Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey do.
Yeah.
And those are some of the best players at their respective positions. They were healthy. There's very little pass rush, if any, in the Giant game. One of the things about Brock Purdy, especially in the second half, when they did get close to him, man, he stood in there and he threw it. The touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel was beautiful. You know, I was hoping Zach Wilson was watching the game just for that, not for the pregame, but just for that, because it seems like everybody in America is literally coming down on this kid, Zach Wilson, which is amazing. I mean, I look, we've been critical. There's reasons to be critical, but I think now it's gotten to the point where it is just so over the top and just. I don't want to say it's unfair because you're an NFL player and you have to deal with the slings and arrows that come your way. But I mean, as you pointed out when we opened up, what that pregame show did to Zach Wilson was kind of like what Shannon Sharp did to Zach Wilson, and what you've been doing to Zach Wilson for about 6 months.
Well, yeah, I mean, more than that even, probably. I mean, you go back all the way to last year when I didn't want him to start. Didn't want him to stay in games, wanted him to get benched. I mean, it's been going on for a while now, and I don't want it to seem like a personal thing or whatever. It just drives me nuts, and it's compounded this year because I didn't think I was going to have to watch him play football anymore, and then he's thrust out there, and I'm watching the Jets season go right down the toilet. But you had Tony Gonzalez, a Hall of Famer. Ryan Fitzpatrick's played on a million teams. He was also a Jets quarterback. Andrew Whitworth, who was going to be a Hall of Famer, and Richard Sherman kick Zach Wilson around like he was a hacky sack last night on that pregame show. Tony Gonzalez, who hasn't had a real football opinion since he was on the first pregame show with you guys a million years ago, said that if the Jets keep Zach Wilson as their starting quarterback, it is irresponsible by the general manager and the head coach. Irresponsible. I mean, in a world in the NFL where lots of guys are irresponsible, they're calling starting Zach Wilson irresponsible, and Ryan Fitzpatrick goes, they're going to go 1-5. If he can't play, they're going to go 1-5, maybe 2-4 if they're lucky, but they're going to go 1-5, and then the season's going to go right down the drain, and that's that.
So what is the alternative? That's at least
Ryan Fitzpatrick gave the alternative. He said Jameis Winston. That's what he said. Jameis Winston. They
have to trade for him.
Yeah, but then again,
there are other options out there that they don't have to trade for.
Yeah, but here's the thing about Jameis Winston: the New Orleans Saints feel like they have a real shot. I mean, and if Derek Carr goes down,
they're not going to go Taysom Hill.
Yeah, right. I mean, they could, but they're not going to want to. And they're going to want Jameis to be there. I mean, a good team like that.
Right. So the point being that is unrealistic.
Unless the Jets give up a ridiculous pick to do that.
They're not going to do that.
So I don't know. Exactly. So nobody really pushed back on Ryan Fitzpatrick's suggestion that Jameis Winston would be the fix with that, because like why would the Saints trade him unless you're doing something like here's a second round pick or a first.
Remember you were asking about Andy Dalton?
Yeah, now
he's probably going to start.
Now he's going to start. Yeah, but the reason I was talking about Andy Dalton, the Panthers are different than the Saints. Like the Panthers to me are in a rebuilding mode. They would take a pick and say, hell, fine, you want Andy Dalton? If Andy Dalton goes there, I really want to start. Can you give me a chance to go over there and start because we're not going anywhere? But I don't know if Jameis Winston would do the same thing. And they love him down there now. Jameis Winston has turned into this sympathetic figure. There was this video that went viral of him standing there and slapping every player's hand and every employee's hand before they went into the locker room. And apparently he does this every game. And Gerald McCoy, the Bucs, said, yeah, he does that every game. He's a great teammate. So I don't think they're going to get rid of him. But, yeah, it was just the overall thought was last night watching those guys that it's not only the teammates that he plays with, his opponents, the coaches that scheme after him, but also former players that have zero respect for that guy as a football player. Nobody does.
I know that, again, but I'm just saying there's one alternative that you can make, and it can be an easy deal. And I keep telling you, it's Carson Wentz.
Yeah, they brought that up and were like, no, not him.
Yeah,
no.
I don't understand why.
I think because I don't think they respect him either. I think they think that he's sort of like this locker room schmuck, and that's what it sort of felt like, no, get him out of here. There's no way. I don't know. I mean, I agree that you could bring him in. I'd do anything at this point. I swear to God, I would do anything.
That's the point. I mean, everybody, can't, is going to be critical of Zach, but nobody offers an alternative. Nobody offers a real alternative. Now, we can sit here and say, trade for this guy, trade for that guy, trade for this guy. That's unrealistic at the moment. At the moment, it is unrealistic. Could it happen in 6 months, 6 weeks from now? I guess it could, but by that time, it may be too late.
Yeah, well, that's what they were saying. That's what Ryan Fitzpatrick was saying. It's like they're going to go 1-5 with Zach Wilson as the quarterback, and they're going to be done, and they're just going to watch this season go away. Now, Andrew Whitworth said He goes, you had Aaron Rodgers come in, and it was his team, and this was all about him. And now if you're going to bring in another veteran quarterback, like that kind of changes things, and it's weird, and then they got to learn that guy. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick's like, hell, I mean, it's a 1-year rental. Go out there and do something because this franchise is just going to go right down the toilet if they keep playing this kid.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if the kid actually responds, and we'll see if the team responds. I mean, ultimately, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as Zach doesn't turn the ball over, they have a really good chance of winning. But when you start turning the ball over, then that's where the problems start to arise. Now, the one thing about the Jet defense, that first game at home against Buffalo, they got the turnovers. That's why they won, and they had the punt return for a game winner in overtime. Like last night, the Giants could not get a turnover. They could not get off the field, and if you don't have any turnovers, you're the lesser of the two teams that are playing. The chances of you winning are very remote.
Yeah, so Kayvon Thibodeau last night, he does end up getting a sack. It wasn't one of these Nick Bosa jumping all over you sacks. I mean, it took a while for the play to develop, and Brock Purdy starts running forward, and Thibodeau gets him. I don't want to knock his sack, but, I mean, it wasn't some sort of dominant situation. But, once again, I'm watching him, and I know that Tiki has talked about this. And he has said that he's doing what he's asked to do, so I'm not going to get on him for this. But I'm watching him back in coverage a million times last night. And he gets that stupid, which I thought was a crappy call, the illegal contact call when he's dropping back. I mean, so is that in indictment? Because I really don't know the answer to this question. Is that an indictment on him, where Wink Martindale's like, I don't think he's a good enough pass rusher to have him just go after the quarterback? Or is Wink Martindale, who has been in the league forever and a well-respected defensive coordinator, screwing this kid's career up? Because these other guys, remember we were talking about Nick Bosa when he signed his contract?
Yes.
And you told me, it was like, these guys put your hand in the dirt and go. J.J. Watt told you that,
exactly,
right?
yes.
It's like, they don't need to do anything when it comes to, prepping and this and that. Put your hand in the dirt and go.
Get the quarterback.
Well, why is it that Kayvon Thibodeau's, he's not putting his hand in the dirt and going?
Here's the one thing I will say. So we often compare great outside linebackers, edge rushers, defensive ends to like what Micah Parsons and what and Nick Bosa are. And when you see him dropping in coverage, all right, so Micah Parsons does drop into coverage a little bit. Maybe on first and second down. It's not going to be third down where he's going to be dropping in coverage. He's coming on third down because that's part of what he does. To me, when I watch Micah Parsons, he's like Spider-Man. He's like an incredible athlete. Now, he's 6'3", 240. He's almost identical to Lawrence Taylor, what Lawrence Taylor was. And he has that freakish ability that Lawrence Taylor has or had. Kayvon Thibodeau is bigger. So he's 6'5", about 260. And he does not nearly have the quickness nor the flexibility that Micah Parsons has. He looks at times a little bit rigid to me, like standing up, and he's having a hard time getting around the corner, that kind of thing, because of his size. So, to me, if Wink Martindale is dropping him into coverage and doing things with him, that is to try to confuse the opposing quarterback. That's usually, some sort of fire zone or something that, is going to be an anti, what's the word I'm looking for? I would say what the defense likes to do. They have a kind of a game plan, and you see it unfold, and you kind of know where they're going to be. This seems to me to be the opposite of that. Like, let's try to fool them with dropping him in coverage and then having somebody else in the pass rush.
All right, so on that illegal contact, I'm pretty sure there was a third down because it gave him a fresh set of downs.
Why isn't he rushing?
Right. I mean, we're talking about a third down. So if I'm a defensive coordinator that's got a great edge rusher, the last thing I'm doing is having him drop back and bump the tight end and stand there in the middle of the field.
But really, truly, how great is he? I mean,
that's my whole point.
Yeah.
Is that he's not. So if I have Myles Garrett, if I have Micah Parsons, if I have Nick Bosa, those guys aren't doing that on third down.
Or T.J. Watt.
Those guys aren't doing that in third down. So obviously Wink Martindale doesn't think he's that guy.
It's interesting. Kayvon Thibodeau is listed as a linebacker. That's how he is listed.
Yeah, I mean,
To me,
He was drafted as an edge rusher, though.
I know.
That's
to
what
me,
he was.
To me, he doesn't. He looks too big and too kind of rigid to be a linebacker, especially dropping away from the line of scrimmage. I would have him on the edge, but he's not a great edge rusher. He doesn't have those skills, it doesn't seem to me, where he can drop the inside shoulder and get around the tackle. Now, last night they had Trent Williams out there. It's a little bit difficult to get around that massive human being. But I will say that they need to be working games. They need to be doing different things. And the Giants' defensive line, it's not as active in that regard, it doesn't seem to me, as the Cowboys are, as the 49ers are, as I'm sure the Washington Commanders are.
Yeah, I mean, and I know these are great players, and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, but they were running right over guys last night. I mean, that would be the most concerning thing to me about this game last night. And I really wish the Giants were healthy because I believe it could have been a closer game, and they probably would have been right in it late into the fourth quarter as opposed to the way the game went. But the most concerning thing for me watching this game was how the Giants were just getting trucked. And we saw the same thing in the first half against the Cardinals and obviously the entire game against the Cowboys. But, James Conner and Josh Dobbs were running over those guys. And then last night, you saw Deebo Samuel breaking tackles. You saw Christian McCaffrey. He gets the ball. It's like a knife through butter. There's hands on him.
But he does that to everybody.
But still. Like, this is now a trend.
Yes.
This is now a trend.
For the Giants, specifically for the Giants, well, they played 2 out of the 3 best teams in a league in their first 3 weeks. And we knew that this was going to be a tough opening 4 games for the Giants. And we felt like 3-1, 2-2, you're okay. 1-3, not good.
Yep.
And now they have to win the game next week against the Seahawks. They have to win the game.
No, of course, because you got back-to-back.
By the way, that's another primetime game.
Yeah, I know. So we got primetime there at Monday night. Then they got back-to-back games against AFC East teams on the road after that. I mean, this is just like the Cardinals, another must-win. I mean, it really is.
Well, it has to be. And I just think that realistically, looking at their schedule, we kind of felt like, okay, if they could beat the Cowboys at home, they would get off to a great start, and maybe they would be 2-1 and maybe 3-1 after the Seahawks. Who thought that the Cowboys were going to come in here and win 40-0?
Yeah, and they had a miserable day yesterday with injuries at practice. Trayvon Diggs out for the year of the ACL.
Right, so these things happen all throughout the season. That's why, you can't overreact. I thought last night there was a compete level there that we did see that we did not see in the first 6 quarters of the season. And then we saw the compete level come back the second half against the Cardinals. Listen, the 49ers are a really good team.
Yeah, I didn't feel like the Giants got steamrolled last night. I
just
felt
got
like
run over at times, and they couldn't get off the field on defense.
Right. I mean, I felt like they competed. The score should have been closer than what it was, but they just couldn't keep up with the talent of that team. That's really what it was. But I didn't feel like they got their asses kicked or didn't belong on the field with the 49ers.
How about Brock Purdy, though? How about that touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, I didn't think he looked great last night, though.
I mean, the second half was better.
Yeah.
He's been a little bit off, and I don't know if that's because of the injury and coming back from an arm injury.
But he looked great early on.
Al thought he should have played against the Eagles with that bad arm.
Well, same with me. I mean, he should have. I mean, he should have given it. It's the NFC Championship game. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, he was out there trying to do whatever he could do.
Shoot it up.
He made shoot it up. Okay. Oh, boy.
Shoot that thing up. Whatever. He's back, and he's probably going to take them to a Super Bowl, so good for him. I mean, at this point, if I could trade being a fan with any team or just pick any team to be a fan of, it would probably be the 49ers. That's the team that I am latching myself to. Yeah, Dolphins, yeah. I mean,
I thought you liked the Dolphins.
I do this year. I mean, Dolphins, Cowboys, 49ers, but the 49ers, I feel like just with their history, they have a better chance of getting it done.
Just know that there are teams that are 2-0 that will not make the playoffs, and there are teams that are 0-2 that will make the playoffs.
Yes. Boomstradamus strikes again.
I mean, it's not Boomstradamus. It's the way the league goes.
I understand. All right, let's take a break. Jerry's got a bunch of stuff for us. It's Boomer and Gio just getting started on this Feel Good Football Friday.